It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Saunders.
Let's drive.
Okay.
Let's drive.
Yeah, I forgot we had to do that. I'm sorry. Forgot we had to do
drive.
that. Sorry.
Carry on. Carry on.
We got one. Patrick Queen, the linebacker, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, is signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. As Steelers fans, and I'll be honest, I am part of this too. I think there was a lot of like, what's going on here? Why are we not hearing anything? What are Omar and Tomlin doing? What are they up to? And then this big move. We knew they were going to add something at linebacker. I wasn't expecting necessarily one of like the big fish of the free agent market to be that guy. But Alan, if you go back and listen to the way that Tomlin has talked about Patrick Queen in the past and that linebacker duo in Baltimore in the past, it shouldn't surprise us that he was trying to poach something from that linebacker room.
Yeah, I think the fans were getting a little restless for whatever reason. I put out there, I was like, I don't really feel like they've been hurt by their lack of activity. You know, it's not like guys that I thought were prime Steelers targets were just flying off the board left and right. Maybe a couple guys at center, but
that's what I was going to say. That's
I felt like there was a lot of guys out there that could be big difference makers. And then an hour later, here comes Patrick Queen. And so, yeah, I mean, I thought when I broke down the linebacker position for us at the end of day one, it was weird because I swear we said on the show, I think it was yesterday, right? Like every time I thought there was a linebacker signed every 15 minutes on the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting into the project of breaking down the linebackers. I'm like, this is going to be a chore. There's not going to be anybody I know left. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, Patrick Queen is still there. Devin White is still there. Levante David is there. It was like the middle of the free agent class all signed first, and the big names were all still left. And so I was like, well, okay, the Steelers could still make a really big move here. Put Patrick Queen first in that, and then they signed him. I'm not going to claim I know anything. It's just luck.
Alan, the contract details did just come out as we are sitting here recording.
So we were actually just before we went on there, we're like, hey, did you see any contract details yet?
Yeah. So 3 years, $41 million. But in 2024, $11.59 million signing bonus, $2.25 million salary guaranteed. 2025, 6.67 roster bonus, 7.16 salary. 2026, 2.5 roster bonus, and then 10.83 salary. So Queen gets 13.84 this year, and then Pittsburgh has some options after that.
So, and that 13.84 this year will be all that's guaranteed.
Yep.
That is that's actually now someone asked for my instant reaction on Twitter, and I said this is a very good deal because I love the player and I love the idea of taking him from Baltimore. That's just awesome. Yeah. But I really felt like they kind of paid full price for him in terms of the dollar amount, but with only 1/3 of that being guaranteed. I think now it starts to look a little even better. Like that's not a very high risk contract at all for a guy who's 24 years old and has never been hurt.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, again, why we should have been talking about this more than we were. The durability is a huge aspect too for Tomlin and the Steelers. Like, you know, the best ability is availability, and he has been certainly available for the Ravens, never missing time. Alan, I know that, you know, projections are projections, but he was projected 4 years, $72.5 million, $50 million guaranteed. And the Steelers got well under that with this deal. Again, like compared to maybe what you thought or what you feel like his value was, certainly the Steelers did pretty well here. But again, like just in terms of that, like that really makes it look like a steal.
Yeah. This is not only a very good player, and we'll get into the player, but this is a very good deal for Omar Khan. Yeah, this is a lot less than he was projected to sign for, in addition to taking an all-pro from your division rivals roster. Just that's some incredible stuff. Honestly, I think Steelers fans are not excited enough about this deal. This is the most impactful free agent signing in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the best player the Steelers have ever signed as a free agent. This is a bigger deal than Russell Wilson. This is a bigger deal than everything people went goo goo gaga over for, gave him the con artist nickname. Everything he has done before this pales in comparison to this move. This is an absolutely incredible signing for the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of the value, the player, the fit, taking him from Baltimore, the age, the injury. Like, it's pretty much a perfect deal. Like, nothing is perfect, and you're never going to hear me say anything is perfect, but I really have a hard time seeing how they could have done better here.
Yeah, and how did this happen then, Alan? Like, is it a product of, again, like some of those middle tier linebackers going, but did they maybe get out in front of these other like big name linebackers in the class signing, and that's why they were able to structure it in this way? Or like, how did they end up striking this deal and structuring it this way and getting him for what they did?
I don't know. It's a really good deal. Like
Yeah.
it's less than he should have got. It's way less guaranteed than he should have got. And usually, guys are not trying real hard to go play for the arch rival of a team in their division. I remember a few years ago, a Steelers player who was a free agent actually took less money to not play for the Ravens because he didn't want to do that. And now you got the exact opposite of that here, where it's like, oh, okay, no, I'll give the Steelers a deal. What a job by Omar Khan. This is as big of a splash as the Steelers are ever going to make in free agency. Like, this is as good as it gets. This is such a phenomenal player. He was an All-Pro last year. He's coming off at the best season of his career. He's 24 years old. He's never missed a game. The Steelers loved him out of LSU. That was the year they didn't have a first-round pick. Yeah. They might have taken him. Like, he would have been a guy they would have been interested in. Ends up going to the Ravens somewhere down the 20s. And they love doing this too. Those guys they like in the draft process, they'll take a note and they circle back and they try to find them later on in their career. That's exactly what happened here. You talked about the way Mike Tomlin has always talked about him as a player, as a competitor, and an opponent. And this is a really, really good deal.
Yeah, and how many times do you see 24 years old hitting free agency? Like you said, the Steelers probably had him circled to try to get their hands on at some point, but like you would have thought maybe after like a second contract or something, they were thinking like maybe this could happen. But after his rookie deal at 24 years old to be able to get their hands on him, I just think it's like a rare situation that the Steelers have found themselves in here.
He's younger than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Like, well, he was and that's another thing the Steelers also often target, right? Guys that are young NFL players become young free agents. They look for that too. Let's talk about the fit of the player, though. Sure. Man, like the over-under of number of questions before a member of the Pittsburgh media in his first press conferences references Ryan Shazier, I'm going to set at 2.5. That's how far we're going to get into his first press conference before someone brings up Ryan Shazier. This is Ryan Shazier. This is the spiritual successor to Ryan Shazier the Steelers have been looking for almost 8 years now. In terms of speed, he ran a 4.5 40 over a 10.5 broad jump at the combine. He's extremely athletic. He's fast. He's great in coverage. And he also just collects tackles everywhere on the field. He's not the biggest guy. You're giving something up. But neither was Shazier, right? He was tiny. It really does feel like this is the sort of finally the Steelers have the guy they've been looking for a very, very long time at the linebacker position. The idea of him playing alongside a guy like Landon Roberts, my goodness. Like, that is such an elite combination for the Steelers. This is a very strong move.
I was curious if Ryan Shazier would pop up on Patrick Queen's mock draftable, but it's not. But it's funny enough that Jerome Baker, another player that we had kind of linked to the Steelers, is here. But yeah, when you look at like the height, weight, arm length, hand size, 40-yard dash, vertical jump, broad jump, bench press, and the percentiles where they rank there, relatively similar to Shazier, but it's like a 70% similarity score on here. But in terms of the fit, yeah, I actually had somebody DM me on Twitter because they wanted us to talk about this on here. Obviously, we were going to. It's kind of a long.
Didn't have to ask. We got you.
Yeah, it's kind of a long-winded thing, but basically, they were looking at Patrick Queen. Struggled a little bit out of the gate early as a young player with the Ravens, and then Roquan came in there. So like the ability to separate how much of that was Roquan masking things that Patrick Queen was doing, like deficiencies, and how much of that was just like, okay, like Patrick Queen's growth as a player from his rookie and sophomore seasons and coming into his own.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. It's not just Roquan either. I think if you look at some of those like the Ravens defensive line over the last like 2-3 seasons, they got Calais Campbell in there. Then like Madubuike really came into his own this past year. Like I feel like he had some better players in front of him than he did his rookie year. When they had some good players, but they probably weren't as dynamic as what they've had the last couple of years. I do think Roquan Smith has a steady influence on him, but he's also not a young guy anymore. He's 4 years into the league. The defenses are similar, so it's not like he has some sort of big transition to make to go from what he was doing in Baltimore to what he's doing in Pittsburgh in terms of physically. Unless he just forgot everything that Roquan taught him, like I think he's going to be fine. I don't know that he will be as good as he was playing next to Roquan Smith, because that might be the best off-ball linebacker this side of Fred Warner in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I still think he's going to be a very, very good player for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about Elandon, like I think one of the best things that Roquan was able to do was allow Patrick Queen to play freely, and make plays, just run around making plays and kind of keep him clean. A lot of linebacker play is based off the play that you're getting in front of them, in the front four, and being able to have those guys stay clean, not to let guards get to the next level and stuff. So I think as much as the linebacker play in front next to him and Elandon Roberts is going to be important for him, but TJ, Cam, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, Alex Highsmith, what those guys are doing in front of Patrick Queen, allowing him to stay clean and just go sideline to sideline and make plays.
I think the biggest thing is the athleticism, right? I mean, I loved what Elandon Roberts did for the Steelers last year. One of my favorite players on the team. Just a different kind of athlete, right? Just, I mean, obviously not as big, but just in terms of speed, in terms of lateral acceleration, sideline to sideline ability, like even Cole Holcomb, probably faster than Roberts, but just a different level of athlete. And that's what the Steelers didn't have last year, and they haven't had really since they had, I mean, Devin Bush had the athleticism, but I always say this about linebackers, man. Really fast linebacker going the wrong way is just farther out of position. if you don't know where you're going, you're better off being slow. Sometimes Devin Bush's speed got into his own way. I think Patrick Queen certainly knows where he's going. He knows how to play this defense, and he is fast. He is very athletic. He's also a really good pass rusher. The Ravens didn't have him do it very much, and the Steelers haven't been having their inside linebackers blitz all that much, but he's probably one of the better inside, I'd say like the best inside linebacker pass rusher they've probably had since Vince Williams too. Like he can get home on the blitz too. Patrick Queen is just like, he was built in a factory to be a Steelers linebacker. It's so funny that Mike Tomlin said you don't belong over there, because it's kind of true, man. Like he was stamped out of metal to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is exactly what they want for that position.
My question now is, we've talked about Elandon Roberts and Patrick Queen's, fit coming in here. And obviously, like, we don't know how Cole Holcomb is going to continue to progress, but like, does this mean anything for him in your mind? Have you heard or seen anything regarding Cole Holcomb, or like, is the idea to have all three, kind of like how we had, Quan come in last year with Holcomb and with E-Rob?
Yeah, I think the idea is to have all three. Had a lot of people ask me about Holcomb today since the signing. He was on his feet already walking around in January, at locker cleanout day. Talked to him a good bit. I think the Steelers are being cautious in saying that they don't really have a time frame for him yet. That's what Omar said at the combine. Honestly, feel like that. I understand what they're doing. They don't want to overpromise, and then he's not ready, and then people think it's a setback and it's a thing, blah, blah, blah. But like, I think they've kind of made it out to sound like it's worse than it is. I think he'll be okay. The big thing that Omar said, that there was like one line in there in that kind of got thrown away, is that they expect him to be fully healthy again this year. Like now, so, if there's nothing permanent, like there's, it wasn't the kind of knee injury that's going to take him 2 years to recover from. He's already on his feet. He's already.
Do we know
around.
what it fully was?
No, we haven't gotten the full details of what he had done in the surgery. He had surgery on the knee.
Yeah.
But I haven't gotten full details of what happened there. Actually, I kind of know, but it's off the record, and so I don't know.
All right, yeah.
And so I think he'll be okay. Will he be ready to like? I would not be surprised if we see him running and moving at OTAs in 8 weeks.
Basically, the reason I was asking, and I wasn't trying to put you in a corner there to answer this question, but like I there's been like career threatening thrown around in terms of the injury that he suffered. And I felt like that was premature for people to be discussing or ludicrous because again, like you said, I've seen IG stories of him working out and running and stuff. So like I didn't think that we were even close to that point.
I'll tell you, of the guys who got hurt last year, I would say that I saw him doing the most work
Okay.
during the season, except for like Corey Trice, who got hurt in training camp. But
Yeah.
like Quan Alexander and him and Keanu Neal, the guys that had like sort of major mid-season injuries, I felt like he was probably the farthest along of those guys, like as things were going. Now, I don't have any idea what happened to Neal, but he wasn't working the way I saw Cole working. So like, I think, yeah, I think it'd be very irresponsible to talk about that being some kind of career-ending injury. In fact, Omar said the exact opposite, that they do expect him to fully recover. So, yeah, I mean, I think they won 3 good inside linebackers. I think they're different players. Like,
Mhm.
with respect to Patrick Queen and every good thing I just said about him, if the Steelers are playing in Baltimore and it's on the goal line and they got Derrick Henry and Patrick Ricard in the game, I'm probably pulling Patrick Queen off the field. I'm probably want a bigger linebacker in there. Like he is really, really good, but he is not necessarily same thing with Ryan Shazier. You wouldn't have wanted him in that situation either, right? There are times when you need a bigger body. And so I think the Steelers won 3 guys at that position. I think they made that very clear last year. So I don't think this really says very much about Cole Holcomb other than, it's going to be
Okay.
3 guys for 2 spots kind of role going forward.
All right. Well, that's good to know. I don't get me wrong. Like I was actually someone that was curious about the repercussions of this, like for Cole Holcomb or what the trickle down effect was going to be. But I agree. Like going back to last year, it seemed like okay, that 49ers game was absolutely awful for everybody. But like as these guys continue to play together, I really felt like they had hit their groove with the 3 linebacker thing, and those guys had all carved out nice roles. So I was hopeful when you're talking about all due respect to Quan Alexander. Replacing Quan Alexander with a guy like Patrick Queen, I'm very excited about what the idea of this could be with those 3 guys in the rotation.
And like Holcomb's cap hit isn't egregious. It's 7.6
Yeah.
million. I mean, and Roberts is entering the last year of his deal. Holcomb has 2 more. So yeah, I mean, look, if he tries to come back and maybe he's healthy, but doesn't have the same level of speed or something like that. Yeah, I can see the Steelers moving on. But I mean, as things stand right now, I think that's pretty premature.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. Anything else on Queen?
No, I mean, I think that's it, man. It's a really good deal. It's an unprecedented, historic deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You should be very excited about it. And he's a great player. And it gets the Ravens, man. That's just the cherry on top, right? Is to just
Sure.
pull them from the division rival straight out of their roster onto yours. It's like a double win.
It happened twice with the Ravens within 2 days. Geno Stone,
Yeah,
the
right.
INT leader yesterday, and then obviously Patrick Queen now. So yeah, gotta love that. Alan, so what's next, do we think, for the Steelers? Like, I mean, to be honest, it's not like they're sitting there like, okay, we gotta get this position, this position, and this position. But I wouldn't have thought that inside linebacker was going to be kind of like the first dot. Of course, they signed Russell Wilson and a punter, but like realistically within this negotiating period here, it was inside linebacker first that they were checking the box for. So, we're still waiting on maybe corner, maybe safety, maybe a wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver to be brought in. Like, do we have any idea what we think is next? And what is your thoughts now after seeing 24 hours plus of the way that this market has shaped up?
Yeah, I still think center is a priority. We know that they were interested in Mitch Morse. They brought him in for a visit. I'm
Yeah.
sure that he wasn't the only one that they've been interested in and had contact with. I will be really surprised if they don't add someone to the center position and before the draft. It doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, but in these next couple weeks. And there are levels there, right? I mean, we talked about Brian Allen yesterday, but it doesn't necessarily need to be like a guy that you would really want to start. They've done that in the past where they kind of get that sort of placeholder player, right? Where you just sign a guy so that you don't have have to draft one, but
Right.
even if you would prefer to. And so, I think there are some. I think people are seeing the top centers off the board. Guys like Brewer and guys like Cushenberry and Biadish, and saying, "Oh, the centers are gone." Well, like those are guys where you weren't going to draft a center if you sign one of those guys. I think a lot of the guys that could just maybe hold the door open for a draft pick or kind of keep the seat warm for a few months, those guys are still out there, and I think they'll be able to find one if they want one.
I would say I know that this specific guy signed, but maybe of this same vein, like Matt Hennessy, that's signed already.
Yeah, like a guy that just sort of came across my radar today was Mongo Feliciano, was with the 49ers, has played center and guard. The Steelers love their positional flexibility. He's 32. He's probably not looking for a long-term deal, probably looking for maybe one or two more contracts to kind of play this thing out. I think he would be an interesting he's a character guy, I think he'd be interesting. And so I think there are plenty of those guys
I was
to fill this spot.
John Feliciano, right? You said Mongo, and I was like thrown off. I was like, did Alan just sneeze? Like, should I say bless you?
That's his nickname.
I see that now.
If your nickname is Mongo, I'm sure not going to call you John.
Absolutely,
come on. I mean, if you've ever been called Mongo once in your entire life, I'm going to call you Mongo. That's just the way it is. I mean,
I'm hoping somehow, some way, somebody calls me Mongo instead of Smitty one of these times, and then I'm just going to be like, no, I'm not Smitty anymore. Yeah.
But are you a pawn in the game of life?
Knowing this, he's moving up my center boards.
Yeah.
Knowing that's his nickname.
Like a pawn, sliding up the boards forward one step at a time. There you go. It's quite a tortured metaphor.
Maybe. Do you think Mongo is a fan of Icy Late Mango?
I bet he could get a nice ad deal out of it, right? I mean, supplement whatever the Steelers are paying him with some.
Yeah.
He's a Northeastern guy too. He's from I think he's from New York or New Jersey, somewhere up that way, and so would be a move closer to home for him. Someone like that, some kind of journeyman guy who's been around that would be able to show a rookie the ropes a little bit. And if he's not ready to play in week one, be able to do the thing. And if there's an injury that, they need a real backup at the position, I think they'll sign someone like that. But it doesn't necessarily need to be one of those guys that was just going to be a starter and you weren't going to draft a center now.
Were you? I guess we didn't really talk about this at all. I said I was a bit surprised by Patrick Queen. Were you? Like, is that something that did you think that they would go like that big game fishing at off-ball linebacker?
I thought the price would be higher, and I didn't think they would want to play at a higher price. Like, that's a lot of money for a linebacker. Even though it's a good deal, it's still a lot of money for a linebacker. And given where he was projected higher than that, I think it felt a little steep for me, given the fact, I mean, we've been talking about them probably wanting to fill like 2 or 3 spots, right? And that's probably more than half of their free agency layout, right? Gone in one shot. I mean, will they sign more than 10 million more worth of guys? Like that's probably about the max, right? That's so hey, if you're using half your budget on one guy, that's a big swing. And so I think it certainly helps that you get your quarterback room right now. 2 quarterbacks making combined like $4 million. That makes it pretty easy to do something like that. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that they were willing to make that big swing. But given how long they've been wanting that guy, I think it makes sense. But it is, it feels like a move that Kevin Colbert wouldn't have made. I'm going to be honest. Like, this feels like like we're covering a different team in a lot of ways. And I think this is another example.
I'm seeing somebody say his cap hit for this year is around $6 million. How does that work out? Like, if it's the details, Tom Pelissero put out 11.59 signing bonus, 2.25 salary for 2024. All
right, now you're gonna make me do math live on the air. This could be bad. Like I could. So so it's a 3-year deal, right? So you have 11.59. Let's call it 11.6. million in salary and signing bonus. That gets divided over the 3 years. So that's about 3.9 million per year. And so, his first year salary, which is 2.25. So you're looking at like 6.15 million cap hit this year. Now it will go way up, right? I mean,
it's like 17.693.
Right, so
the
it's 14 plus the one, so it's like it's 16 or 17 million in 2025. So it's certainly structured in a way that they can add some money to 2024 now if they want to. I don't really think this is the team that's going to be super interested in signing a lot of guys on 1-year deals, though, right? So like it kind of doesn't matter. They have to balance the 2025 cap just as much as they have to balance the 2024 cap, and moves like restructuring Alex Highsmith or extending Cam Hayward, extending Pat Freiermuth, which I think are things like are kind of on the table for them this offseason. They're going to move money out of 2024 into 2025 and 6 when they do that. So it's a bit strange actually that it's kind of structured that way, but it certainly lets them, if they want to make another big move in 2024 for something that doesn't have a lot of future to it, they have the ability to do it. Like they could go get somebody on a big 1-year deal if they want to now, because most of this is coming
that would be
2025 and 2026. Yeah, I don't know.
One of those older Buffalo safeties, maybe.
How about like an older defensive tackle if they think they just need like one more stopgap year out of somebody?
You know what? They already went in the division, right? I know he's coming off an injury. I wonder how healthy DJ Reader's going to be.
Yeah, he is one of those injured guys. I mean, it's possible. I wouldn't think strong safety, but maybe corner. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, you could just fit the franchise tag right in there. You don't have to sign him to an extension if you don't want to. Honestly, that might be the move because when you do that, so after Wednesday, after the start of the new league year, if the Steelers acquire Sneed, they have to fit him under the cap that day at the tag amount. Now they can negotiate an extension after that, but they have to get him under the tag first. So that's the move that I think kind of feels like that kind of salary structure might be setting them up for the most, to be honest.
All right. Well, man, now I'm hoping that that's what they're doing. But I do want to ask you before we get out of here is the second part of that. I know that, long-winded question, but I was curious your thoughts on the market in general, though. Like, I feel like guards are getting paid a bit more. Running backs are getting pretty decent money on this market as well. We mentioned
through the roof.
Yeah, what Kenny Moore got 3 years, $30 million, strictly a nickel. Yeah. So Sean Murphy Bunting
was 8. Yeah, I mean that's
So what are your thoughts on the market in general?
Weird, a little unpredictable. That's the way it always. There's always differences, but I think this year it seems like kind of some pushback, right? I think the linebacker market has been pretty robust. I think the safety price, there hasn't been a lot of safeties that have signed, but the safety prices have been pretty high. Slot corner, some positions I think they've kind of been traditionally devalued. I think you're seeing a little bit of a bounce back. Guard is one of them as well. Center, the centers have been pretty well compensated. Running back, and so maybe see a little bit of bounce back. Seems like the wide receiver market is kind of soft. I think it lines up with the 2024 draft class, right? Like this is a really weak draft class at safety. It's a really weak draft class at linebacker. It's not a great draft class in the interior offensive line, especially if you need a guard. And so I think it makes sense that those are positions. It's a bad draft class at running back. So it makes sense that those are positions where we're seeing teams will just spend a little bit more money than they usually have. And on the other side, obviously, very deep at wide receiver, very deep at tackle. Has a tackle been signed? There's one
Jermaine Illuminor. But
that was maybe right. I mean, it's been a very quiet tackle market, and so I think it's mostly just reflective of the draft class coming up. That where it's weak, that people are willing to pay, and where it's strong, I think people are holding their cards and kind of more willing to wait. Curious that slot is that way. I like the day 3 slot guys in this draft a lot. I think there's good value there. So I think that might be like the Steelers have traditionally valued slot a lot less than a lot of other teams. That could be a place where they see the price tags on some of these guys and just say, You know what? We'll deal with that one in the draft, or we'll circle back to it in June. But I could see them seeing the price tags on some of these slots and saying, "Whoo, thanks, but no thanks," because man, that's Cam Sutton money, who can play outside corner for a guy who cannot. Like that's and the Steelers thought Cam Sutton money was too rich for their blood a year ago, so I really don't think they're going for those kind of prices for slot corners.
Sure, I agree. And it looks like, at least as of right now, I haven't seen them really connected with any. So we will see how this market continues to develop. Maybe they'll just let it play out, sit on their hands, and wait and see what things look like as free agency officially does start tomorrow. So be interested to see. But Alan, tell the people where they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH, PGH Steelers Now, SteelersNow.com. Full of stuff about Patrick Queen, every other free agent you can imagine. All kinds of good stuff there going on. Check it out. And like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll do this again tomorrow.
A lot of fun reaction stuff from new teammates and old teammates of Patrick Queen's. So, yes, be sure to go check out that and all the other stuff on him over at the site. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts on Patrick Queen becoming a Steeler and what you think is coming next for the team. Leave us a 5-star review if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.